To Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to what can only be described as a manic Monday. A manic Monday. I mean, y'all, we are seeing things. We are watching history right now. This is something else. Listen, you're here right now. It's actually a beautiful Monday, and we are here to bring peace, order, and information to all of you right side ruffians out there. In the meantime, that's Big Rig pushing buttons on the board. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. How's your weekend?
Good.
Yeah.
A lot of work, a lot of relaxing.
Work and relaxing.
Yeah, work and relaxing.
That's a great combination.
And I cut the grass in the rain.
You're a hard man.
So I got it done.
Hard as woodpecker lips. we actually laid pine straw in all the flower beds this weekend. And I'm thankful that I had my son and my grandson there to help me, because otherwise I'd still be laying pine straw right now.
Nice.
But anyway, great weekend. Boy, a full weekend. Holy cow, what a weekend. And holy cow, what a show we got laid on for you today. So coming up at 3 o'clock today, John Rogers, pollster and longtime friend with Signal Analytics, is going to be on here to give us the latest data. What are we going? What do they say in the polls right now? Polls, take them with a grain of salt, but they are somewhat telling. And I think the polls are what told Joe Biden he was done. And we'll talk about that with John Rogers at 3 o'clock. And then at 4 o'clock, John Wall, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, calling in. Oh, man, yeah, he's had himself some more kind of a week. I mean, he's the chair of the state party, one of only 50 people with his job. Just got back from one of the most amazing conferences perhaps ever in the history of the RNC. And then, oh, by the way, it was also the week where the top-tier candidate who just accepted the nomination at the RNC was almost assassinated. And then, oh, by the way, we come into the weekend and we got the current president, the Democratic candidate, who won all the votes he needed to be, the nominee for the Democrat Party, just stepped down. And also, by the way, I'll point out, nobody has seen him in days. Anyway, that's John Wall, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, giving us his perspective at 4 o'clock. And then I got a triple dipper just filled with stuff, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. I'm saying, man, we got a full slate. So the first one, I'm just calling it, now what? Now what? Well, I got answers. I do. I mean, you don't come to this show because I don't have answers. We're here to provide you the background information you need to form your own opinions and to have those water cooler conversations, and this one's no different. Biden has stepped down, and yeah, we're going to talk about the now what. That's coming up, number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, then there's the question of the 25th Amendment. So I'm calling number 2 the 25th trouble. Why haven't they done it? I mean, even the Speaker of the House has now called on the 25th Amendment to be invoked. Biden has not been seen in days. The last time we saw him was maybe on Saturday. I think he might have gone to a service at church on Saturday, but I thought he was isolating. So how could he do that? I thought he had COVID. Anyway, the bottom line is this. He disappeared to his Rehoboth Beach, dwelling, I guess his getaway, and then resigned from running for president by tweet. And no one has seen him since. The whole world is on its ear, politically speaking, and Biden's nowhere to be seen. So the 25th trouble, that's what we're going to talk about, number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, I'm just calling this one, what do they say? So what are people saying about it? What are world leaders saying about it? What are your Alabama leaders saying about it? What are the state parties saying about it? Who's endorsing who? Is Kamala Harris going to get all the support she needs? There's a lot of things to think about. But when the president of the free world steps down from running in the middle of his campaign, you got to know that the world's talking about it. And we'll cover that. What did they say? Number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into my comments for the day. Listen, Folks, fans, and friends, we are sailing on strange tides in uncharted waters. So you ever watch the reality TV show Deadliest Catch? I used to watch it all the time. Amazing to see what it takes to haul in the crab, right? The Bering Sea is merciless. Sometimes the men are sailing calm waters, hauling in pots of king crab, laughing and just yucking it up. Other times, though, they're covered in layers of wet weather gear as ice freezes on the decks and the waves come crashing into the bow. And every once in a while, there comes a time when the captain grabs a microphone and yells into the PA system for the crew to brace themselves as a rogue wave rises up out of nowhere and smashes into the boat like a freight train. Well, y'all, that's where we are in American politics right now. The Republicans are on the crab, hauling in pots, loving life, calm waters. Democrats, they're on an ice-laden vessel being slammed by rogue waves, and all they can do is brace themselves. But before we get cocky, let me suggest that those of us on the right side of things, we had better brace ourselves as well. Because Democrats are flailing, and they are willing to drag us down with them if that's what it takes. And they will stop at nothing. So here's my message today. Brace yourselves, because we got 100 days to go. Look, I'm not going to kid you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're living in strange and difficult times, and you do need to brace yourselves because it's about to get more intense. By now, I'm sure you've all heard what we've all known for the longest time has finally been admitted, or at least acquiesced to. Joe Biden cannot sustain the rigors of his office. Yesterday afternoon, in a move that caught even his own staff off guard, which is crazy, Biden issued a written statement on social media that tried vainly to list a series of proud liberal accomplishments and then said that despite his desire to continue to serve, that he was stepping down from his campaign for a second term as President of the United States. No press conference, no address to the nation, just what my brother referred to as the equivalent of a high school breakup text. It's a decision that needed to happen, and it also is a decision that sent shockwaves around the world. It's a decision that was predictable and yet also surprising in a way. It's also a clear indication that we have a White House being led by someone other than the man whose name is on the sign out front. Joe Biden is now officially a lame duck president. But we are officially also a nation in need of leadership, real leadership. The kind that actually shows up for work and knows what day it is. But also the kind that can immediately bring some calm and restore some order and fend off enemies and win back friends, calm frayed nerves, and empower good people to do great things. It was also very telling that in his initial statement, Biden did nothing more than thank Kamala Harris for her time serving with him. It wasn't until a little bit later that he rushed out on a second tweet with an endorsement of her to take his place. Interesting. I can only imagine that when she saw the emptiness of the original statement leaving her name off the marquee, that an angry phone call made a quick reminder that it would be her name leading a charge to invoke the 25th Amendment if an endorsement was not forthcoming. Oh yeah. She suddenly had an endorsement, and Biden, even though he can't run for office, even though he's too frail to stand for trial, he can apparently still hold the Oval Office and keep us all safe. Please, somebody tell our enemies that. Look, 2 months ago on the air, I predicted that we would be here. Last week, I did a monologue on the idea that liberal elites were staging a soft coup. Over the weekend, I advanced that concept further and wrote an op-ed that was published just this morning. And yesterday afternoon, Joe Biden and the Democrat elites proved me right. Biden's on the outs. He's old news, thrown to the wolves, hit the skids, thrown under the bus, off the island. Just like that, the guy who they told us could run rings around his staff every day, who Karine Jean-Pierre said could keep a vigorous schedule and had no issues, who Kamala Harris herself said was well in command of his position. That same guy is now just biding his time and taking longer naps. They lied. They lied a lot. But we are the ones facing the consequences of their lies. See, the world is not a safer place right now. And we don't know who's holding the nuclear codes in the White House. This past weekend, the war in the Middle East ramped up significantly. Have you heard that? Israel responded to Houthi drone strikes by annihilating a Yemeni port 1,000 miles away from their border. China's still rising. Ukraine's on fire. In a mere 100 days from the election, the Democrats have decided to depose their candidate, the guy who just got millions of Democrat primary votes. But it's not the first time. Full credit here to independent journalist Michael Schellenberger, who pointed out this weekend that in the 2016 run, the Democrat National Committee manipulated the money and the processes of their primary to make sure that Hillary Clinton could beat Bernie Sanders because, it was really her time anyway, right? Or in 2020 when the party elites pushed out Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar and pitted Elizabeth Warren against Bernie Sanders so that it would create a clear path for Biden. Nice. This year, you might also recall the Democrat elites, they refused to allow a true open primary in the Democrat Party as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was running a strong uprising and his party refused to let him debate Biden. So he left and launched a third-party spoiler campaign. Look, it doesn't matter what the rank-and-file Democrat voters think. It's the party elite who get to make the decisions. They've decided Biden's out, despite telling you he was in, because the polls showed the voters rebelling. So once again, those very few people who believe that only they know best are stepping in to make sure that you know that they know best. But now they have logistical issues of their own making. Self-inflicted wounds are crushing them. There's $91 million in campaign funds that were raised for the Biden-Harris campaign that are locked up. By federal law, those funds cannot be spent on anyone but Biden and or Harris. That's a big hurdle. $91 million in the last 100 days of the race, and they can't write checks on it until they know for sure who the candidate is. They're allowed to give it to the Democrat Party to use to support down-ballot races, but that'd be like giving up the presidency. And then, oh, by the way, then there's various state laws that they're running into problems with. Wisconsin. I'm told that Wisconsin does not allow withdrawal from the ballot for any reason besides death. As far as we know, Biden hadn't died. Nevada. My understanding is that no changes can be made to the ballot after 5 p.m. on the fourth Friday in June after an election year of a nominee or if a nominee dies or is adjudicated insane or mentally incompetent. Well, it's past June. Biden has not died, nor has he been 25th. How about Georgia? If Biden withdraws less than 60 days before an election, his name will remain on the ballot, but no votes will be counted. It doesn't apply here yet, but the clock on Georgia is ticking. How about Texas? The two parties' nominees have until the 74th day before the election to withdraw from the ballot. As of today, there's only 106 days. The next candidate can still be added, but time is running short. Some states, like South Carolina, they don't allow candidates to withdraw for purely political reasons. Still up in the air. There's no indication they will allow the change, and Biden swears to the world that it's just about politics, which is technically not allowed. And then some states, they don't even have laws on the books for dealing with a presidential nominee withdrawing, and there's little precedent for such a situation. The next few weeks are going to be very, very interesting. Will it be an open convention? Will the party rally around Kamala Harris? Can they? So brace yourselves, my friends, because the Democrats are scrambling right now. There's an air of desperation. And listen, upheaval is the devil's playground. If you don't like Kamala Harris, you're going to be branded a racist, a misogynist, a MAGA white Christian nationalist. If she dares to pick Buttigieg to be her running mate and you don't like it, you'll be branded homophobic. All the counterpoints, the lies, and accusations will make those of us on the right appear to be the reason why they are floundering in high seas, but we're not. They sailed willingly into those rough seas. The waves crashing into them are the ones that come with the territory they chose to fish in. But for us on the right, we got to stay on mission. Stay even-keeled. Keep hauling the pots and stay on the crab, if you know what I mean. But brace yourselves nonetheless, because this is going to be a crazy 100 days, and rogue waves can pop up anytime. Brace yourselves. That's a wrap for the Right Side Way. I'm saying, y'all, years ago I had my lifeguard certification, and one of the first things they taught you was that a drowning man will drag people under with him. Just be aware. They're floundering, they're flailing, they're in high seas, and the rogue waves are slamming into their boat. You need to brace yourselves, because they're going to try and drag us down, and we can't let it happen. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just, I mean, like, man, throwing truth bombs is what we're doing around here. That's a new one that just came out. Truth bombs. I need to do a T-shirt with all these sayings on the back of it. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have that. That's gonna happen. It's gonna have to happen. So listen, I got to take a bunch of text because y'all are some texting machines today. So number here is 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. Same number for both. You can always find that number on the website too, by the way. That's rightside.media.org. All the live stream, the audio, everything else is on there. Gary from Decatur says, polling with a grain of salt, maybe a salt block. Says, how can Kamala Harris be in a dead heat with Trump and all the top polls, and she's the worst VP in recent history? Something's not adding up. Listen, man, I look back and wonder how that many people could have voted for Biden. Of course, we know some of that wasn't real, but you know what I'm saying? It's just hang in there, brother. More to come. John from Huntsville. Phil, awesome monologue. Also, doesn't Joe Biden dropping out help Trump because won't there still be at least 1% or 2% of Democrats writing Biden's name in on the day of the election, which will take votes away from Kamala Harris? It's possible, although I'm pretty sure that's going to be less of a thing since he said he doesn't want the office openly. But here's the thing too, John, and all y'all listening. He said it by tweet. Let that sink in. The President of the United States claims he has COVID, but that means he can't even, get on a Zoom? He can't pick up the phone and issue a voice statement? He issues a tweet, basically, with a written statement that was not printed on, presidential stationery. And that may be because he was ending his campaign, and there's a bright line you have to keep between official acts and campaign acts. So I'm not too worried about that piece. But he issued a written statement on social media, and no one has seen him. If the President of the United States had just, been diagnosed with cancer or, had a family issues and wanted to be there for his family, or something happened where, there was a thing that came up, he would get on the air and go, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a difficult time in my family, and here's a thing, and here's what we're going to do, and I feel like it's inappropriate for me to run during these times. But we're dealing with basically a guy who has been seen on the world stage as being too frail for the office, derided by his own party, calls from his own party and the media for him to step down after an awful public appearance at the June 27th debate. And you'd think the way to handle the I'm not really ill, but I've lost the confidence of my party type message would be, appear on camera, try to look strong and say, I hate y'all think that, but I'm for the party and we're going to get this one, and if it means me stepping down, I'll do it. No. Issues a statement and then ghosts us. This is, my brother said it best. I wish I'd thought to say it myself, but he said it yesterday. I mentioned in my monologue. He said, this is like a bad breakup text in high school. You just send the text and go on your merry way because that's what immature people do, right? My gosh. The President of the United States can't even appear to say, I've decided to end my campaign despite the fact that I've been running for the last year and a half and millions of y'all voted for me. Despite the fact that we're 100 days away, I'm just going to stop. And then I'm not going to appear in public, and I'll get back with you. It doesn't work like that, y'all. That's not leadership. I think he's in a fetal position somewhere. This is bad. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, I'm not kidding when I say it, Alabama. Y'all, I mean to say this show goes way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Got a ton of texts. I'm not going to be able to keep up with y'all today. Teresa from Town Creek just sent me a emoji that says, missing person, possible victim of coup, has a picture of Biden. Yeah, but it's, the funny thing is it's not funny. I mean, on the one hand, we're going snicker, I'm laughing with you and I'm looking at it going, I'm loving seeing the Dems in disarray. At the same time, my gosh, it's the president of the United States. This is irresponsible. It's also a little bit trepidatious. I mean, I'm looking at this going, come on. You can't just have the president lock himself down in a house and, go into the fetal position and not want to talk to people for days. Anyway,
did you scroll down on the meme? It says responds to ice cream truck music.
I did not see that. Holy cow. Holy cow. Crystal from Moulton says, imagine what the Democrats would be saying if the Republicans were doing this. We'd be the absolute worst people in the world, ending democracy as we know it. I feel like they're going to say that anyway. Thanks, Crystal. Ken from Harvest says, 2 questions. Do you think President Biden wrote that tweet? 2, do you think he knows it was written? Okay, well, that begs the question. Here's what I think. And I got nothing to go on except just the belief that, first of all, I mean, I always see people speculating that he's something's happened, he's deceased, or he's comatose. I don't think so. I don't think he's well. I think the stress of making this decision, the sense of embarrassment, of disappointment, of having people who he's been close to for decades turn on him and tell him to step down, I think he feels betrayed. I think it's a lot for anybody. But then again, he's also still the president of the United States. You don't get to just not show up to work. And so the president, I believe, is probably in a pretty fragile state right now. That's my interpretation of where things are. The fact that he's not even going to come out and address this. I mean, Lyndon Baines Johnson, he chose not to accept the nomination. He went on and did an address to the nation. This is not normal behavior. This is not the kind of behavior that would be acceptable if somebody was turning down a prom date request, right? But this is somebody who's turning down the nomination, who's already been given the nomination technically. He was the presumptive nominee. Millions of votes. Over 14 million people voted for him in the primary. Brian from Decatur says the biggest problem the Democrats face now is being able to change all the names on their mail-in ballots they were going to use. Oh, God, wow. Okay, there's that. What else we got here? JT Lacey Springs says, I perceive the attached as one of the larger obstacles for the Dems. And the attached is, it's the same thing. Realizing the 100 million ballots they have pre-filed now have the wrong name. I agree. You know what? And early voting is due to start here pretty soon in some states. It's a mess. I mean, they may have 100 days to the general election, but early voting starts in about 40 days, if I'm not mistaken. They got to figure themselves out. Allie from Athens says, so Senator Williams, if this is a high school breakup, as you indicated, who is actually saying it's not you, it's me? I think both sides are trying to say, nuh-uh, I didn't break up with you. You broke up with me. Nuh-uh, I broke up with you, not the other way. That's what's happening, Allie. It's awful. Nobody wants to admit it. But everybody's writing it on the bathroom wall, aren't they? Jeremy from Madison said, great monologue, very informative. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Ed P. says, oh boy, it's a long one. He says, Phil, Obama came out and made a statement, signed by both he and his wife, that we are in uncharted waters and that a new process for nominating a candidate needs to be developed. While Clinton and Biden both made statements backing Kamala, Clinton and Biden made, yes, exactly. Here's my prognostication from the political fever swamp. Said, everyone thinks Kamala Harris is a smooth road to the nomination. Not so fast. This is going to be a Team Obama versus Team Clinton Biden at the DNC. Obama wants Michelle, while Clinton Biden want Kamala. After a bloody floor fight worthy of the 1924 clam bake, I predict that the Democrat nominee will be Wes Moore, governor of Maryland. He checks all the boxes except for gender, but it'll be enough. That's Ed P. That's not a bad, layered prediction there. So I'm going to get into all that here momentarily. I'm doing the now what dipper, right? And I'm going to come up top of the hour. We're going to have a conversation with John Rogers from Signal Polling and Analytics on what they see. Listen, the prognostications right now are running rampant, but it's only because we have instability. Now, Kamala, she had some things going for her. I'll tell you this. Pelosi came out and endorsed her today. Because up until today, Pelosi, Schumer, and Obama had not endorsed her. That's big doings. Well, Pelosi endorsed her fully today, which means that a promise was made of some kind. But Pelosi has now endorsed her, so there's that. I don't believe Schumer has. If someone sees an article saying that he has, tell me, but my recollection is he has not. And then, of course, what we heard from Ed P. is exactly right. Obama has withheld his, and I think part of that is Obama being the ever cagey politician, being the guy who can rush in and try to bring peace and reassurance when the day comes that a nominee is chosen. The guy who can measure the political winds and swoop in to be the man who can bring peace and order and assurances, and I'll be there for him, don't you worry. So is it going to be Kamala? It's not clear. It's not. She's got an uphill climb, and she knows it because her own statement, if you haven't seen it, said she looks forward to trying to earn the nomination. Okay, that means it ain't mine yet, and I'm going to do what it takes to get there. Now, it appears that if she's going to run, she will have access to the $91 million that the Biden-Harris campaign had on hand at their last report. That was at the end of last month. $91 million. Nothing to sneeze at, but nothing like what Trump has currently. $91 million. However, report out, let me just grab my notes here. Report out that just in the last 24 hours that she has raised in the neighborhood of $50 million. So once she got Biden's endorsement, we're told, here it is, Fox News reports this morning, Vice President Harris's presidential campaign has raised nearly $50 million in grassroots donations since President Biden suspended his reelection bid and endorsed her. The Harris campaign told Fox Digital, since the president endorsed Vice President Harris, everyday Americans have given $49.6 million in grassroots donations. Okay, if that's the case, then she is now boosted up to, about $140 million. About $140 million. That's a lot to run with if you're the one still seeking the nomination, but you've got $140 million to go. But here's her statement. She said she will seek the Democratic nomination. I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. The questions remain as to whether she can do it. She's not popular. She's not at all popular. The polling indicates that she's not popular. In fact, her popularity was waning below that of the guy they just ran off the ballot. So what's going to happen? Well, right now what we're hearing is that she's going to have to get the nomination of her party. All the state parties, I believe, one report I had said they have coalesced behind her. We did get a statement just today. In fact, 1819 News, I believe, has it. No, AL.com has it. Yeah, AL.com says the Alabama Democratic Party has pledged its support for Kamala Harris. Let me open that article and see if it says, I think it does, that Alabama Democratic Party has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, State Democratic Party Chair Randy Kelly, yada, yada, yada. Let's see if it says anything about the other. Okay, no, it doesn't mention the other parties around the nation, but what I'm told in another article that I've got in my hot little hands is that there is, in fact, a coalescing of all the state parties, meaning this is lining up for her. But if they were already freaking out about beating Trump and they don't think her poll numbers are good, then don't think for a minute she's done. There are people out there that desperately want something to return the Democrat Party to a more moderate party. So I'll tell you what, I'll skip forward in my stack of stuff. Oh, where is it? At 5 o'clock today, Joe Manchin is scheduled to be on with Brett Baer at 5 o'clock on Fox on the Daily Report. Daily Wire reports that Joe Manchin is reportedly thinking about returning to the Democrat Party and running for the White House now that President Joe Biden has announced he'll be ending his 2024 election bid. CNN's Jake Tapper reported Sunday on Twitter that sources close to Manchin said the senator is considering re-registering to the Democrat Party and throwing his hat in the ring. Well, that would be interesting. I don't know that he could pull it off. Would the party accept him? I mean, they have their own bylaws. He just disavowed the party most recently, and now he wants to be back in so he can run for their highest seat. I don't know if they'd let him do it. But the other thing is, what that clearly indicates is there's discussion about whether or not the Democrat Party can find somebody considered to be more moderate and appealable to draw away those centrist votes that are unsure of Trump but are really unsure of Biden. So more to come on this. It points out, too, there have been speculation about Manchin embarking on a third-party campaign with the group called No Labels, but he left the Democrat Party in late May, saying at the time, "I have seen both the Democrat and Republican parties leave West Virginia and our country behind for partisan extremism while jeopardizing democracy." Manchin would be an interesting run. You know, he has those parts of him that are more hawkish. He has parts of him in his career that are certainly oil and gas centric and coal. He's not into all the green energy crap, although he has voted for things along the way, along party lines. He's seen as a moderate. We'll see. More to come. We'll find out about him after the show today at 5 o'clock with Brett Baer. All right, Big Rig, take me to a break, brother. Listen, this is a fluid situation. Keep your heads on a swivel and brace yourselves for rogue waves, because I'm telling you, this is not over. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, making it cool to be a conservative. I'm going to go to the phones right now. Wolverine Dan's on the line. Wolverine Dan, what's shaking?
Well, it is entertaining. I'll say that much. But,
Yeah.
Phil, the Democrats will support anything or anybody. I mean, a clothing store mannequin could run for office, and they would definitely support them.
Well, they did have
and
one.
they're going to have 70 million plus votes because, we're going to have that many votes too. So it's that small little independent party that we're trying to impress here. But if you stay on message and tell everybody, and it's fact. If it's a fact, then say it. If it's not a fact, then don't say it. But she has been a lousy vice president. One of the things that really she dropped the ball on is the border. She's only been there one time.
Yeah.
Okay? And, there's a lot of other things that you probably could bring up about her that she does not do well. And she knew the fact that our former president now was having medical issues. She knew that, and she fronted for the guy, okay? Look, she is who she is, all right? Is there a perfect candidate? No, there's no perfect candidate, period. But you got to find a candidate that's got the most values and something that's going to help you out the most, okay? And that's pretty much how it works out, all right? Because if you can satisfy your household, that'll pretty much is what everybody really wants in this country, okay? A large majority of people. But the point is this, Phil, you could throw a mannequin out there, and they're going to support that mannequin. And that's what, to me, I think she's got an IQ less of a mannequin.
Fair enough, man. Appreciate you calling. See you, man. Spot on. And he's right, though. I mean, listen, there are those in the Democrat Party. Now, by the way, I will say this. There are those in the Democrat Party who, to Wolverine Dan's point, will vote for whatever is on the ballot. They care less. This has got a D by its name. I got to have it. And there's those on the Republican side, too. But what they're also facing right now is providing reassurances to their base that, even though we lied to you a few months ago, please come back out in the general election because we're going to need you then. I mean, we can lie to you and switch out we still got to have your vote in the end, though. You know what I'm saying? Listen, don't hold us accountable for the lies we already told. Just vote next time. And so they're going to face voter apathy. They are. They're going to face voter apathy on their end. It's more than just picking their candidate. Now they have to convince the voters that not only is their candidate worth voting for, but that the process is worth participating in. That's going to be an uphill climb for the Democrats right now because they have so undermined their own processes. They have so insulted their own voters. Now, voters can be very forgiving. I was super disappointed in the 2022 midterm elections. I thought that was just asinine, that we did as poorly as we did with every reason not to. That was a leadership issue. We swapped out some leadership, and I'm ready to keep moving forward. That's part of life. But anyway, got some more text here. Badger from Athens says the real life event of the movie Dave. Yes, it is. That was in a monologue a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact. Scott from Somerville, Joe Biden doesn't know whether he's scratching his watch or winding his butt, much less was he's running for president. Okay. It's something to watch, man. Jeff from Indiana says Obama's the only one who can go against Kamala and not be called a racist. That's why he's going to get a pass. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's probably true. Ron from Tuscumbia says maybe Obama had Morgan Freeman call Biden. I don't know. Missy from Falkville says Joe is just finishing this campaign like he started the first one, from the basement. Point well taken. Doughman from Harvest sent me a link. I can't watch a YouTube video right now, man, but I'll check it out. Thank you. My word, the text messages, they just keep storming in. Gary from Decatur says $51 million in donations for Harris right after she announces her candidacy for president. It was reported that Nancy Pelosi was withholding $200 million in donations from Biden because he refused to step down. Suddenly he steps down. She endorses Harris, immediately raises $51 million in small donations, end quote. Call me crazy. That's a big one to swallow. Yeah, but I think there are parts of this that were in the works already. Phil from Raleigh, North Carolina. If the Dems go forward with Kamala without any real competition, the counter would be that she was, quote, selected, not elected. And by the way, she's right now about to be the only nominee for president, I believe, who was not elected in the primary in the history of the United States. That's interesting. Steve from Huntsville. It's only 2 months after the convention until election. I don't think they can put someone on the ballot that hasn't campaigned in the past for the job. I believe they're weighing the crap show if they don't choose Kamala against the crap show if they do. Yes, they are. Says, look for Hillary, hit the ground running, and the media give her a boost like never seen before. See, that would just bother me. Now, listen, I'm not saying she wouldn't. I think her avarice for power is like nobody else. And she always believes that she was supposed to have been president and she got it stolen from her. She can be an election denier. Hillary Clinton's allowed to be an election denier because, she's Hillary Clinton. But I think she's also one of the most unlikable people in the history of the world. And she's also got a lot of baggage knowing that she's lost to Trump before. Jerry from Decatur says, apparently Biden always thought he was too legit to quit until the debate. Now it's Kamala's turn to get. Can't wait for the next debate. I see a bad moon rising. How many songs do we just have in one text right there? You're like streaming the songs. And then Nani from Beverly Hills, Florida says, maybe Kamala will slot Manchin or RFK to balance the ticket. I wondered about that. I think more likely Manchin comes in and brings in RFK, and they run as a ticket. We'll see. More on this coming up. We got John Rogers from Signal Polling and Analytics, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a very manic Monday. This is some more kind of a news day, but if there's any show out there designed to bring some peace and clarity to the situation, it's this one. Listen, we're gonna go to somebody right now who has their finger on the pulse of all things politics. Longtime friend John Rogers started his political career here in Alabama. Spent a lot of time working in Montgomery. He and I worked together. John Rogers is now a pollster with Signal Analytics, a company that started in Alabama and is now national in scale, working out of D.C. He's on the line with us right now. John Rogers, how you doing, my friend?
Phil, I am doing great, and man, what a insane, just crazy last 3 weeks in American politics.
Brother, it's a target-rich environment right now. I mean, you can't swing a dead cat without finding a disgruntled Democrat. But but we also can't let our guard down, right? Republicans, we cannot for a second think that this means we're in.
No, I think that's a great point. And Governor Brian Kemp, who we do a lot of work with, he made the point a couple of days ago in a TV interview that, look, Republicans are ahead, but you have to campaign every day like you're behind, and you cannot take anything for granted at all. And, the Democrats are energized right now with Harris being on the ticket. They had a massive inflow of donations via Act Blue. Last night, I think I read that they raised $50 million in 24 hours alone. So the Democrats are much more energized than they were a week ago.
Well, I guess they have to be, because right now they're. But I wonder how much of that is fake enthusiasm. Like, oh, good, we're back in the game. We brought in the second string quarterback. We're still going to win. I don't know. I just wonder. But what are you seeing in the polls? I tell you what. Let me ask you this. What did you see in the polls that they were seeing in the polls that caused Biden to finally drop out?
That's a great question. And what we were seeing in the polls is even before the debate, the disastrous debate performance by Biden, even before that, Trump had edged ahead in basically every single battleground state that matters. He was ahead in Nevada, he was ahead in Arizona, he was ahead in Georgia, he was ahead in North Carolina. And those 3 Midwestern states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that Biden had to win, it was either tied or Trump had gone ahead before the debate. And then after the debate, you started to see that Trump was even, he was extending his lead from, some of those states that went from 2 points up to 4 points or 3 points up to 5 or 6 points. And what's really amazing is reporting came out from Axios and some other national news organizations that the Biden campaign had not done polling for 2 months in some of those battleground states until this last week. That's what the reporting said. And, you kind of have to wonder if in some ways they were trying to just bury their head in the sand. But, they evidently did a round of polling finally, and that was just kind of the nail in the coffin. And, even the team around Biden, who have been incredibly blinkered, they just kind of realized there's really no path forward.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. So even before the debate, I mean, I knew that it was trending, but I didn't realize that we were seeing Trump ahead in every major poll, even in the battleground states. But well, let me ask you this then. I mean, right now we have no proof of life, but I assume that Biden is still, alive and kicking. But he issued his statement on Twitter, of all things, no public appearance, and then he came back later because he didn't endorse Kamala Harris in his original statement. He came back with a second tweet and endorsed Harris, but she doesn't have a clear path. I mean, she's got to earn the nomination, and they got a long way to go on that. How's she polling?
Well, so we do a national poll every single month, and we had just concluded the one for July, right prior to the switch, right, and Biden announcing that he's not going to be the nominee, and he's stepping aside. And we polled Harris's image. 58% of the American voters nationally, 58% have an unfavorable view of her, versus just 35% of the American public, Bill, who say that they have a favorable view of the sitting vice president. So that means she's underwater with a negative 23 net image. And then, in comparison, Trump is not incredibly well liked necessarily across outside of like the Republican Party, but in comparison with Trump, Trump's image is at -11, right? So Kamala, her negatives are far beyond what Trump's are. And then what's really interesting too is that for Kamala, her net favorability with Hispanics is -14. Wow. And then even with college-educated women, a group that Democrats traditionally do pretty well with, she's underwater with a -11 net favorability. And so to translate that out, Arizona and Nevada are not going to get any easier because she is not popular with Hispanic voters. And I think that she's not going to do as well as Biden would do in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. One thing that people have to keep in mind is that she comes from San Francisco, and she has underperformed even in a state like, you look at her electoral history. Her first race for statewide office was in 2010 when she ran for Attorney General. She won that as the Democratic nominee by less than 1 percentage point over the Republican nominee. And so she is not a strong campaigner, has not been historically a strong campaigner, and that's why she didn't even make it to the Iowa caucus in her own 2020 primary bid.
Yeah, she's a flawed candidate, obviously, and it's amazing to me that she's had as much career path as she's had, because you're right, she keeps skinning by literally by the narrowest of margins. Let me ask you this: is there anything out there yet that says that if she was paired with some? Because I've heard polls that she polled lower than other Democrats who were being considered as possible replacements for the ticket. So what if they pair her with somebody? Does that raise her unfave balance, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think, if you look at the impact of the vice presidential selection, it is fairly muted over the last 10 to 20 years, right? I mean, it wasn't like Donald Trump won particular states necessarily because Mike Pence was the VP nominee. So I don't think the effect of the vice presidential pick I don't think it has a huge effect usually, right? So, there's a lot of talk that Kamala's team is looking at, for instance, somebody like Josh Shapiro, who's the governor of Pennsylvania.
Right.
So does adding him to the ticket help the ticket? Maybe marginally, but for the most part, people are going to be making the decision, I think, on Trump versus Harris. And I think another thing that people have to kind of keep in mind here is that Harris, literally she's the sitting vice president. And so it's going to be a straight line. You don't have to connect the dots. It's an already existing straight line for Trump and Republicans to say, if you don't like inflation, if you don't like how expensive things have gotten in the economy, that's because of the Biden-Harris administration. So it would be very different if Democrats had said, you know what, we're going to have an open convention, and they wound up selecting somebody like Mark Kelly, a senator from Arizona, or Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. That would have been somebody who could have created some distance from the Biden-Harris policies, but Kamala is not going to be able to do that.
No, she's not, and that's one of the things that I hope. I know that voters have short memories. Right now, I think that Democrats who are going to vote Democrat no matter what are desperate just to find somebody that they can, stake their hopes on. But it's the centrists, it's the moderates, it's the swing voters that both sides now are staring at very hard. And I, like you said, the polls were trending towards Trump's way. And I'd have to believe that even more so since the assassination attempt, if nothing else, the sympathy vote. But okay, so let me ask you this: what are your expectations right now? Because here's the thing, John, just spitballing with you. There are some of these out there like Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer who may not want to tie themselves to Kamala Harris. They may not want to risk the loss of their own political capital by being on a losing ticket. So do we pick like what I would consider to be a second-tier, lesser-known Democrat, but then what does that do to her own visibility?
Yeah, I think, that's really astute analysis, because I think somebody like Gavin Newsom, he obviously wants to be the nominee at some point and try to win the presidency. And so there's a little bit of he's going to distance himself and say, I'm supporting Kamala Harris, but, really he's probably just trying to set up his own 2028 presidential bid, right? But I think, she's gonna get somebody who is seemingly moderate, right, to try to moderate her image and, as you said, appeal to the center. They do have a lot more energy and enthusiasm in the base. I mean, the Democratic Party and the left were so deflated, because Biden had just bombed so badly on the debate stage that it was very apparent that they were not in a good position, right? So they've energized their base, which is one positive thing that they've got going for them. But she's not, historically, she has not been a very deft campaigner. She has a pretty far left record, a lot of different things. I mean, look, she is on the record saying that she wants to ban fracking. And I don't think that's going to play well with even centrist voters in the Midwest.
No, I would agree with that. I do. And I tell you, one wild card, which still remains to be seen, is there are a lot of calls for the 25th Amendment right now. And Biden has not been seen in days, which I find to be unconscionable, because even if you've got COVID, put on a happy face, get makeup in there, and sit in front of a camera and tell the world, I'm here and I'm disappointed, but I'm stepping down. But he's not doing that. If we find out that there is something that is so visible and so altering in terms of his personal health that she knew about and chose not to for her own personal ability to run for office, I think that's a campaign crusher at that point.
I agree that it is a little bizarre that, they literally had made this announcement by posting a letter on Twitter or X. That just seems a little bizarre. I mean, you're the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, and that is just a little strange. What's interesting, too, is that a lot of people in the media, they acted like that when Republicans and conservatives, going back a year or two ago, started to kind of say, well, Biden is not in great health. Maybe he's not going to be the nominee. A lot of people in the media acted like that was some kind of weird conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
That, lo and behold, Biden is not the nominee. So I do think that for, like you said, if there's something that comes out that's very concrete related to Biden's health or his ability to do the job of commander-in-chief, it does not look good at all for the vice president. And she's been vocally on the record defending him and saying that he's up to the job, but it's like, well, he clearly is not up to the job of campaigning.
Yeah.
And so if he's not up to he's not up to that job, how in the world can you say that he's up to the job of being the commander-in-chief?
Well, more to come on this, brother, and you guys are going to have your work cut out for you. And by the way, while I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm watching a ticker that's came up on CNN saying that the Harris campaign now announces they've raised $81 million in the first 24 hours. So at the very least, there's people trying to throw money at it and boost her credibility. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, but it'll be an equal fight, I think, when it comes to money on that side. So it is, the race has certainly got a lot more interesting over the last week, if it's possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything that's happened in the last month.
Good Lord, could it get any more dynamic than what we got? All right, well, listen, it's a fluid environment that we're in, but John Rogers with Signal Analytics, and I would appreciate you coming on again. Keep us posted as things go along. All right.
Absolutely, Phil. Great to be with you as always.
All right, take care, man. All right, Brig, take us to a break. I ran that one long, but gee, my netty. Can you imagine being a political pollster right now? Like, who are we polling today? I don't know. Who's in? I don't know. Who's out? Oh, my gosh. More to come. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so who's Kamala Harris? I mean, we're in the now what. We're going to wrap up the now what part of the Dippers here today and move to the 25th in a minute. But as we wrap this discussion up, part of the way forward is going to be, okay, let's say it's Kamala. Let's say she earns the nomination. She's certainly got some fundraising going on, apparently. She's now got, the Clintons and Pelosi endorsing her. But what's going to happen? What's going to happen with the rest of it? And if she is, then who's going to be your VP? I agree with John Rogers that the VPs are not always the flagship, so to speak, but they're still part of the flag. They are. And they also sometimes come in to help provide assurances that there's a well-rounded ticket or to provide additional votes from a battleground state. Who's it going to be? We got all kinds of guesses. Got a piece here from the New York Post. Lists 10 potential possibilities that are being talked about right now. I think one of the top ones that they're going to look at is, and I guarantee you they've already had a meeting, Pete Buttigieg. I bet you. You watch. I bet Petey is in the running right now. Mayor Pete. And then she could say, look, not only am I the first woman of color and all the things, but I've got the first ever openly gay vice presidential candidate. Whoop, whoop. Because they are about identity politics. They identify. They don't identify as Americans. They don't identify as people. They identify as parts of people. And so I would not be a bit surprised to see to Mayor Pete to be. And plus, he's already run a national race. He did. He ran a national race, and he and Amy Klobuchar actually wore some people out during the Democratic primaries in 2020. He earned his way into a position on the cabinet just because he brought something to the table, I guess, in terms of his bona fides on the national stage. He was the Vivek Ramaswamy of the 2020 campaign for the Democrats. We'll see what happens. Gavin Newsom, I don't think so. Andy Beshear, now he's the Kentucky governor, very popular, but is he going to want to ruin his own credibility by attaching himself to Kamala Harris? I mean, Petey is already attached to Kamala. They serve together. She knows him. She could say, we work together quite well. I think he's great. Petey's awesome. He and his husband, it'll be great. Gretchen Whitmer, I don't think she'll do it. I don't think she wants to destroy her political clout. J.B. Pritzker, nah, I don't think so. I don't think he'll do it. Josh Shapiro is a possibility. Pennsylvania is a battleground state. They need Pennsylvania in a big way. It's part of the blue wall. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, I mean, he's extremely popular locally. He's only been a governor for 2 years, though. But he did oversee the rapid rebuilding of Interstate 95 when a bridge collapsed last year. He's got some credibility. Roy Cooper from North Carolina, never heard of him, but there he is. Westmore, Elizabeth Warren, oh my gosh. Nah, that won't happen. Kamala can't work with her. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Like covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. I'm talking about this one. I mean to say it, Alabama. Y'all, this show goes way down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, listen, over the past month, I have introduced you to one of our newest sponsors, Inspire Advisors. Inspire Advisors. Look, did you know that as many of y'all are seeking to, set aside for your retirement while also standing up for things you say you believe in, that many of the things you be investing in could be actually contrary to biblical values in general? I mean, your investment dollars could actually be unintentionally supporting causes you just don't believe in, like abortion or pornography or human trafficking. I mean, it's just to name a few. So here's the deal. Inspire Advisors, our friend Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire, they are specialists in the field of biblically responsible investing. It's a thing. They call it BRI, biblically responsible investing. So yeah, Paul and the folks at Inspire Advisors, they would love to offer you a free consultation. No strings attached. Just find out what's in your portfolio. And then if you find things you don't like, show you where there's some biblically aligned alternatives you might want to choose. So here's the deal. To learn more about BRI, contact Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors today. There's no harm, no foul, no cost even. It's a free deal. You can get an impact report. Their website is www.moneypatternwealth.com. That's moneypatternwealth.com. You can also go to our website, rightsidemedia.org. Just click on our Rightside Radio Sponsors tab, and bam, you can find their logo. It takes you straight to their website. Look, the bottom line is this. Call Paul and the folks over at Inspire Advisors. It's conservative, it's godly, it's balanced, it's financial freedom with Inspire Advisors. Check them out. All right, so we're going to jump on into the next part of the show here, the 25th Troubles. Let me just tell you that I think that they got a problem right now. We don't know what's going on with Biden. Here's what we do know. Nothing. We know a big fat nothing. We know what we saw before. We know the last time we really saw him was him barely making it up the steps into Air Force One, and he's not been seen since. He just resigned from running for President of the United States by tweet. Who does that? Maybe the person who does that is the person who is not capable of actually addressing the nation right now. If that's the case, we need to know it. I did notice a moment ago that Kamala Harris has flown to Delaware. Flown to Delaware. That would be where the president is right now, at Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I don't know if she's going to go see him. I don't know what's up. But we deserve to know. This is our country. We are the ones at risk right now. We are the ones who deserve to know whether someone is at the helm. Even if we don't like their policies, who is at the helm? And it doesn't need, granted, I know that every president, whether good or not, has a crew of people. You've got the entire, national security team. You got the entire economic advisor team. You got all of it. So yes, they are surrounded by people who are not supposed to be the ones who make the final call on things. So can they use the 25th Amendment? Wow. Can they use the 25th Amendment? The 25th Amendment was put into place in the few years immediately after the assassination of John F. Kennedy back in the 60s. I think it was 1967 before it was finally ratified by all the states. But the 25th Amendment allows for a replacement due to the incapacity of the current president. The requirement by law is that the vice president and half of the cabinet have to convene and address Congress in writing saying that the president is no longer capable of fulfilling the duties of the office, and that in order to prevent a constitutional crisis, the vice president would assume the role. That's constitutional authority right there. You don't get to do it by tweet. You don't get to do it by de facto. You don't get to run around and say, I'm the nominee, I raised $81 million. Oh, by the way, the real president's a vegetable right now, but it's okay, I'm going to be the nominee. You don't get to do that. So here's the problem they got. The 25th trouble they've got right now is not only is the 25th Amendment really the nuclear option, it really is. It just is. It's the nuclear option on what to do with a president who is on the borderline of functionality. He has not been shot and rendered unconscious. He is not comatose. He has not been adjudged, which is, by the way, an adjudication of incompetency. He claims to be okay. His family claims he's okay. He's just stepping down for the good of the country, which is a purely political reason, which is also a problem. So Vice President Harris, if she invokes the 25th Amendment, it's like saying, hey, I'm running for president, but never mind the fact that I knew all along and I had to invoke the 25th. If she goes up there to his house right now and finds that things are bad and there's craziness happening and she has to do something now because of a new thing, well, that's going to be a spin, brother. I'm going to tell you right now. But that's the only way I can see them invoking the 25th Amendment with any sense of credibility that does not immediately, and it'll be suspect no matter what. So that right now the intent is Biden says he's going to ride out his term. Well, now, how do we know? He told us in a tweet. He says he'll address the nation later this week. You step down from running for president and you'll get with us later? Hey, by the way, not going to be president. Send that to you in a text message. Whoop, whoop. Catch you later. You do coffee? That's not the way this works. Not at all. Jonathan Turley wrote a great piece in thehill.com. Came out yesterday afternoon. Oh, we got a caller? Man, I am so sorry. I'm just sitting here just running on. Is Jeff from Indiana on the line? Let me get Jeff real quick. Jeff Rowe, I'm just talking away, brother, and all of a sudden Big Rig's looking at me like, you going to take the call? How you doing?
I'm enjoying the conversation. Hey, do you think Joe Biden even knows how to tweet? I guarantee he wasn't the one who wrote that.
No, I'm pretty sure somebody on his college aged group of folks that run his media said this will be cool. We'll do it on Twitter. Okay, yeah.
I'm kind of picturing him laying there in one of Michael Jackson's oxygen chambers there, like he's in suspended animation or something.
Well, how weird is this though that he's not showed up? Like he's not even done a Zoom call to say, "Hey, here's me." Hold up today's newspaper so we can see the date and know you're really alive, sir.
Well, he may not be alive. He's been brain dead since day one. That's when they should have pulled the 25th on him back then.
Well, to me, it's even obvious that even since he took office, the stress of the office has worn him down to a nub. I mean, what little we saw of him back in 2020 is not even there now. But the fact that he is not present leads me to believe that there's more going on right now. I think the stress of stepping down has just caused him to capitulate.
I don't know if he's got any stress or not. You don't stress out if you don't even know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hey, if Kamala has to debate Trump, if she's the nominee, can you picture? I think what they're going to have to do is call up Garrett Morris. You remember those Saturday Night Lives whenever the not yet ready for primetime players when Chevy Chase would read the news and Garrett Morris would sit up in the little window there and instead of signing he'd be yelling, "Yeah, the news," and stuff. Do you remember that?
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, if Kamala and Trump have a debate, I think they're going to call up Garrett Morris to come in, and he's going to be in a little window on the side of the screen there, untossing her word salad so that everybody can understand what they're saying.
Well, what about the one? Who was it that was it the mayor of New York or somebody held a press conference and they had somebody got in there to be their hand signer and totally faked it like it was not. They didn't even know what they were doing. We're just winging their hands around and making all kinds of gestures. And I'm thinking that's about the way that it would be to try and interpret one of her speeches in the first place.
Well, what would you think you would have to do if you were signing what Kamala says? They just shrugged their shoulders and put their hands in the air.
I am in complete agreement. All right, so listen, what's your prediction, Jeff Rowe? Do you think Kamala is going to get the nomination?
I think she has to, just because of the money, and then it's like I say, it's all politics for the Democrats is all, it's not nothing to be. Gosh dang it! Put some words in my mouth, Phil. I can't say anything. They're all, identity politics. So you can't knock a black woman out. That's the only reason why Obama hasn't did it, because he's the only one who can sit there and say, "Oh, I don't like Kamala," because he's you can't call him a racist. So.
Well,
that's basically, he's the only one that can do that, I think.
Well, for about the fifth time today, I'm saying this is a fluid environment that we're in right now, so we'll just wait and watch and see where it goes. But all right, man, listen, you be safe on the road. We're about to hit the hit the break time, but we will talk to you again shortly.
Have a good one, Phil.
All right, we'll see you, man.
Nashville.
All right, well, good luck. We'll see you, buddy. Bye. Right before the break, I'll tell you this. Jonathan Turley wrote a piece on the 25th Amendment, and he says it leaves a lingering question for this fall. Can Biden remain in office when he is incapable of running for the office? That's a fair question. That's a question that needs to be addressed in more detail, and we're not seeing that right now. He simply says it's for the best interest of the country. He says, by the way, Biden says he was withdrawing out of recognition he is no longer politically viable. Well, in Turley's words, that makes a mockery of the democratic process. Millions of people went through the primary elections to select him as their nominee. Now he would just be set aside, replaced by a vote of the party establishment. Like a shift in the Russian Politburo, he says. Second, he says, it could admit that Biden was, as stated for weeks in the media and figures by special counsel like Robert Hur, greatly diminished both mentally and physically, but that makes this withdrawal an admission that could trigger a fight under the 25th Amendment. The bottom line is this. He says the 25th Amendment was written for situations like this. But the lack of clarity and the lack of truthfulness makes this very difficult. And then the lack of scruples on the part of those who have worked with Biden all this time, who would suddenly have to be called on the carpet, because unless they're going to say that he capitulated and he just like had a massive crash in the last few days, they're going to have to admit basically, well, we held off doing this, but apparently we need to now. That's asking a lot. All right, I'll tell you about who just filed a plan for Harris to invoke the 25th Amendment in the last 24 hours as soon as we get back from this break. Take the break for us, Big Rig. We'll come right back. Keep it going. Coming up top of the hour, too, don't forget, John Wall, Chairman of the Republican Party, will be with us. Stay tuned. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. I mean, like making it cool to be a conservative, making common sense like a superpower. Hey, so the 25th Amendment, we're talking about it. And the Dems, they got some 25th trouble, y'all. Some 25th trouble. So keep in mind, by the way, that a recent survey that was done by Newsbusters put together a montage of over 600 times that the media aired the idea of using the 25th Amendment to get Trump. They did. Over 600 times they did that. Meanwhile, Biden can't tie his own shoes, but they won't say it. But the Federalist came out with a piece just last night, actually. It says Democrats successfully launched a soft coup against President Biden. By the way, that's the term I just used. I did. I wrote a piece that came out in 1819 News this morning. I used it in a monologue last week about the soft coup. Anyway, Democrats safely launched a soft coup against President Joe Biden after his senility became a political liability, with Biden announcing he would no longer seek the party's nomination. But if Biden cannot run for office due to severe cognitive decline displayed during the debate, then dropping out of the nomination process is not enough. If Biden is too senile to run for president, he's too senile to be the president. I agree with this, and the whole premise of this goes on to talk about the fact that you're in a position right now where the 25th Amendment requires the invocation if the president is, quote, unable to carry out basic presidential duties. Now, there's a lot of speculation out there, and I'm real careful to just jump on stuff. But Charlie Kirk, who's usually pretty solid, has tweeted out today that he's hearing from sources that there had been an effort to get Biden to the hospital, and that was not followed up on. That they had medical treatment for him on Air Force One, and that's why he went straight to Air Force One and walked slowly up the stairs. That they had been clearing the roads to get him to a hospital for some reason. I don't know. All I know is this. We're in a position right now where we haven't seen the president in days. Somebody on his staff sent out a tweet saying he will no longer run for president. The vice president is like, whoop, whoop, I'm the one now. And she's running around doing her thing when the question is, who's in charge? Who's running the country right now? The staff? I mean, who's in there? Mayor Pete? Somebody's got to be like at the helm. And yet the vice president is running about making sure that everybody knows that she's the one, and she's already making campaign trips and checking her bank book. The president's nowhere to be seen. I would assume they've got like the designated survivor hanging out somewhere in a bunker doing something. South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace. I pulled this off of South Carolina local news WSAV. On Sunday, following Biden dropping out of the 2024 election, South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace announced in a statement that she would be filing paperwork to have Vice President Harris invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, I don't know that she can do that. They can certainly urge, they can pass a resolution. But Mace also posted images which states in part calling on Vice President Kamala Harris to convene and mobilize the principal offices of the executive departments of the cabinet to activate Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. What she's basically saying is, hey, Vice President, quit campaigning and do your job. If he's not able to run, if he's not able to be the guy, then you don't have any choice. The statesman view is this is what you do. It's what you do. By the way, the rest of the world's watching. All right, keep in mind, coming up right at the top of the hour break, we're going to have John Wall, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. He's one of 50 people like him in the nation who chairs a statewide Republican Party establishment. He just got back from the most amazing RNC convention, and then walks in the door. I'm sure he's just dropping his bags off when all of a sudden, Biden announces he's withdrawing. I want to get his perspective as a state, as a national leader, really, in the Republican Party. G.I. Joe from Birmingham texts in. He says, Phil, if campaign funds can't be used, what happens to them? And then Phil, Obama's running the show. Maybe. And by the way, the funds, I talked about that earlier. The funds can only be used that were raised for Biden-Harris can only be used by a Biden or Harris. Other than that, they lose the ability to use them. But she's raised new money for her own campaign, and she'll be able to access the $91 million they already had. So apparently, she now has $160 million, $170 million to work with. That's pretty epic. That's a good bit of money. Rap from Athens says, if Kamala's on her way to Delaware, I bet Joe's gone. What do you think her first executive order will be? Who knows? Well, her first one has to be picking a new vice president, to be confirmed, by the way. James from St. Clair County says, anyone notice Biden withdrew on National Ice Cream Day? I heard that. It was.
I have the meme for that. I saved it last night.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like eating an ice cream cone.
Oh, my gosh. It's awfulness. Awfulness. All right, listen, we're taking a break. We're coming right back. John Wall, chairman, Alabama Republican Party, will be on the line. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, listen, in an effort to keep us up to date on all the latest happenings, we get the right people in here to talk about stuff. Well, a guy who's been in the thick of the stuff is John Wall, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, who just had a weekend where the nominee, I mean, he's one of 50 people that have a job like his, and he just watched the nominee get an assassination attempt, survive an assassination attempt. Then he went through the most incredible Republican National Convention maybe in history, and then he had the Democrat nominee resign. It's a fluid environment, and John Wall's on the phone right now. Chairman John Wall, how you doing? John, you there? Did we lose him? John Wall. All right, Big
yes,
Rick.
sir. Can you hear me?
There he is. Yeah, we got you. We got you back now.
Doing well. Good to be on the show. And you've forgotten that list of things. International problem with flights is all my delegates are trying to get home from Milwaukee. So a fun week politically.
Yeah. So the conspiracy theory just ramped up another notch. I'm just saying. Well, so listen, let me just, I tell you what, before I go any further, let me just get your perspective on the amount of, like, the wind burn you must have from watching the winds of change happen around you every day.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's incredible. I especially that assassination attempt. You know, I was sitting at a desk in Milwaukee working on the convention, and I got a phone call from another one of my, I forget whether it was one of my staff or another state chairman or something. They're like, John, turn on the TV. You know, as I watched that, I really realized just what we are facing right now.
Yeah.
This is a time in history that our country, as a country, I don't think we have ever seen this situation quite to this extent, where you have an assassination attempt and then a major party pulling their nominee the next week. Folks, you are watching history, and this is going to be an election year that goes down for the rest of our country's life.
It really is, man. I mean, you signed up for it. Did you have any idea to be like this? Good Lord.
I don't think anybody could. I'll tell you, I was doing an interview on Biden pulling out. I was like, look, what you're seeing here, because this was not Biden pulling out. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
This was the Democrat machine, the elites within the Democrat Party, pushing Biden out. He didn't want to leave. He did not want this to happen. But the Democrat Party, they don't work bottom up, grassroots. They work top down, and they pushed him out. And I think this is what highlights what we've been saying as a whole, as a Republican Party. These, and I'm just going to call them globalists. I don't know what name you want to use. These deep state bureaucrats, globalists, whatever. They are so desperate to hold on to power that they will do anything to keep themselves in control.
Yeah. Well,
and it goes back to the lies they spread about Donald Trump, the Russian hoax, move forward, the court cases weaponizing the justice system, and now when all of that has failed, now they're going after their own in a desperate attempt to try to save this thing and be able to hold on to power this November.
It really boggles the mind, and I look at it and think, first of all, you can smell the desperation from a mile away, but Kamala is not necessarily, now she got the late-breaking endorsement, because if you noticed, Biden didn't endorse her in the first tweet. It was a second tweet that did the endorsement. But they say she's raised a lot of money in the last 24 hours. And is she going to be the nominee? But what's her process? I mean, how are they going to do this? And by the way, John, how are they going to do this in compliance with state laws that require the ballots to be changed by a certain date?
Well, okay, so that's a great question right there, because, everybody's thinking about the Democratic National Convention coming up, after, end of August. But that is not the deadline we're really looking at here. They before Biden dropped out, the DNC was saying they were going to hold a virtual roll call and make their nomination the first week in August. Do we see that continue? Because if they miss that deadline, we're not going to see a Democrat presidential candidate on the ballot in Ohio.
No.
So there's a lot of questions still that have to be answered by the DNC, by the Democrats, of are they going to move forward with the virtual roll call? I think they have to. Otherwise, they just take themselves off the ballot in several states, which is just going to be a train wreck for the Democrat Party.
Well, yeah, like a bigger train wreck, like the rest of the cars go off the track.
Yes, like the train is already off the track, but this basically rolls it off a cliff.
Well, so all right. So, what is their process? Do you know? And I realize you're the chairman of the Republican Party in Alabama, but what are they going to hold a Zoom call to get this done? Because that is a bit. I mean, a lot of folks don't realize that it's not just election day. There's the prep time in advance to get all the ballots ready. Because even the absentee ballots, and for the states who do early voting, those have to be done, typically speaking, a couple of months in advance at a minimum.
No, that's correct. And different states have different laws in place. And you're correct. You know, as a Republican, we have our act together. We're not facing these questions, but a good adversary knows what his opponent has to do and knows the field. So yes, to answer your question, there's 2 or 3 states that their election laws say that the nominee of that party has to be submitted and recognized officially by the nominating process by a date in mid-August before the Democrats' convention. Which means in order for the Democrat nominee to appear on the ballot in these states, Ohio being the biggest and the most noteworthy, in order for the Democrat nominee to be on the ballot, they will have to do a virtual roll call before that time frame. And that's why they were looking at the first week of August. I know that originally they were looking at August 6th or 7th for a possible virtual call to do that roll call and nominate. I think they're going to have to try to stay on track with that. So I think we will see a virtual call, unless, and this is the big question mark, what do they do if Kamala Harris over the next week or two doesn't meet their expectations? Yeah. Maybe she's not performing better in the polls. I'm not taking out the table. We were dealing with ruthless people here. I'm not taking out the table that we could see a third person enter into this. I don't think Kamala has this locked up by any means.
Well, that's the question I think that's out there, and here's one of the things, and we're spitballing. I know that. I know this is like speculation, but if a whistleblower comes forward and says that his health was such a crisis in the White House and everybody knew it, and Kamala refused to invoke the 25th because of fear of what it would do to her career, I think that crushes her campaign.
Well, I agreed, and look, I think we all know that somehow that debate performance caught the mainstream media off guard. The vast majority of Americans, and I'll be willing to say pretty much all of us Republicans, we knew to the extent that Joe Biden was suffering. Like this was not a surprise for us. And so, yeah, it becomes a question. If all of a sudden you don't think Joe Biden is fit to run for office, well, has he been fit to serve over the last few years? And the answer is probably no.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris's problems go deeper than that, though, because the reason Joe Biden is slipping in the polls is not because he's old. It's not because of his debate performance. It's not because of anything like that. It's because of the failure of his policies.
Well, it is.
Whether that's the border, national security, safety, keeping our community safe, the woke indoctrination of our children. And Kamala Harris has been, as his vice president, has been integral in every single one of those issues.
No,
so I'm not sure the American people react any better to her.
I don't know that they will either, and that's the thing we're going to have to watch. Is we're going to have to stay on message. The message right now is not to get tied up in the personalities, but to stay on the policies, because no matter who they put in place, it's the policies that are going to make the difference, and we're running against the policies. And she was tied to the policies. Well, listen, man.
That's absolutely right. Like she is the Biden administration. Like she is part of that Biden administration that has completely failed the American public.
Well, listen, man, on a more positive note, you had quite the week. Give us a few minutes. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left here. Give us a little bit of breakdown of what it was like to be in your position as a state party chair at one of the most incredible Republican national conventions maybe in history.
Well, they tell me it was great. My memory's a little fuzzy because I didn't get like any downtime or much sleep. No, it was really an incredible experience. The programming during the RNC at night, as well as the events that we hosted. As chairman of the Southern Region for the RNC, as well as being state party chairman, had a Southern Region event at American Family Field. a lot of great guests there. A lot of Southern governors, senators. I did some stuff with Vivek Ramaswamy and some. Probably my favorite moment of the convention, for me personally, was getting in a little bit of a humorous spat with Nigel Farage.
Oh, really?
He came to an event that I was hosting, and as I was introducing him, I made the mistake of mentioning the vision of our founding fathers and quoting them. And so I looked over and I was like, "My apologies, sir, for quoting American founding fathers to an Englishman," which sparked a fun back and forth with him over the monarchy versus the American Constitution. But a great week. I don't think you can, when I think back to the speeches we saw and the heartfelt things we heard from Trump's family, from his granddaughter, from Laura Trump talking about how her watching Donald Trump as a grandfather, his grandchildren having to watch that footage of him getting shot at that rally, like just the emotions with that, and then take that all the way to the other side of the emotional spectrum, listening to Tucker Carlson and one of my personal favorite speakers of the event, Hulk Hogan, and his energy. Just what an experience.
I mean, we kind of ran the gamut, didn't we? Hulk Hogan, Tucker Carlson, Mike Pompeo, Franklin Graham, Kid Rock. I mean, it was like, wow.
You had it all. I told the Trump team after that. I ran into one of Trump's senior advisors in the elevator Thursday night, and I said, whoever made the call to put Hulk Hogan and Franklin Graham back to back, I don't know whether they should be fired or given a raise, but that was a fascinating back-to-back in the speaking order.
Well, I heard that Hulk Hogan actually accepted Christ and was baptized not long ago, so maybe he and Franklin Graham got along pretty well in the backstage. Who knows?
Hopefully so, yes. And both those gentlemen gave an incredible performance.
They did.
I shouldn't say even performance. They both spoke from their hearts in a very different style.
Yeah.
But spoke from their heart at what our country is facing and what's really at stake here.
Well, we got a ways to go. I mean, I think it's real clear that the Democrats are in disarray, but we cannot take anything for granted. We got to run like scalded dogs for 100 days.
No, that's absolutely right. And the Democrats are going to come together, whoever it is, whether it's Kamala Harris or whether it's someone else. After they officially nominate their candidate, they're going to come together. The mainstream media is going to come on board, and we are at the high water mark now. They will be pushing hard and gaining ground the entire time. And so I think you're right. It's incredibly important. This is not one. This is still a battle, and they're going to be unified, and they're going to be vicious. They will not stop at anything to win this race.
More to come. Listen, we need to have you on the show a few times between now and the election just to make sure we stay up with all the fluidity of the events, all right?
I'll look forward to it. Always good to be on the show.
All right, thanks. John Wall, Chairman, Alabama Republican Party. We appreciate you and what you do. We'll have you back on soon. All right, wow. That's just, he was in the thick of things, man. That's very cool. All right, listen, we got a great show still going. Y'all stay tuned. We got more. I'm going to take some text messages and then take us into the what did they say section. Like, what are people around Alabama, around the region, around the nation, around the world saying about the announcement about Joe Biden? I'll tell you all about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just slinging some truth bombs out there. So let me go to the phones real quick. Is that Brian? Brian from Huntsville's on the line. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing relatively well. And I got a serious question.
All right.
Going back to Edith Wilson over Woodrow Wilson when he was incapacitated.
Yeah.
Tweet is kind of like somebody passing a note behind the door saying, "This is what my husband wanted."
Yeah.
I'm wondering, could Congress subpoena either Jill Biden and or Kamala to come out, actually physically say what the president's health is?
Well, I would think so, too. That now the Fox News is reporting that Biden's physician just announced that, here's the headline, White House physician gives update on the president's health after Biden was pushed out. And this is a story that came out as of the last hour or two, I believe. Yeah, 2 hours ago.
I missed it. Okay.
So it's just but listen, the whole thing is still shady as all get out.
Yeah.
And he's bound to, doctor-patient privilege and medical confidentiality. And so if there's more going on and he's just not saying it, that's possible.
But Jill, it might be protected by spousal type things, but
the whole thing's a mess. But
the
reality is, you're right about the Edith Wilson passing a note through the door saying the president's fine, don't worry. I mean, this is the tweet is the equivalent of that. And technically, you look at it and go, okay, unless COVID has really got him worn out, like it's a bad case, most of the times it's a common cold. How about you just go ahead and put on a suit and sit in front of a Zoom camera and say, hey, folks, I'm still isolating, but I wanted to talk to you personally. He could do that, I would think.
Well, Colonel Phil, if it's like me, it's just getting to be old age that does it to me.
Yeah, well.
You have a good one, sir.
See you, man. Yeah, the whole thing's a mess. And I just saw where U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville just tweeted out. Let's see if I can find it again real quick. No, I've already moved past it. But he just tweeted out that basically the president needs to show himself to the nation like ASAP. And it's yes, he does. Text messages. John from Huntsville says, Phil, if Kamala Harris becomes a Democrat nominee, I think she'll beat Buttigieg. I do too. That's my number one. I think she will. Jeff from Indiana. Hey, Phil, isn't it ironic when talking to you about someone's mental incognitability and my thought train completely derails? That's Jeff from Indiana. No, man, you were still on. Listen, you're driving and watching Nashville traffic. I got no questions about your concern, your mental health. Paul from Decatur says, here's a what if. What if one of our enemies try to take some pot shot at us while they figure out who's in the White House? Who will control this country's military and retaliate against an attack? Well, the National Command Authority has layered protection on there. There's this thing called the Continuity of Operations, the COOP plan, that specifies who makes certain decisions at certain levels and in certain crises. Now, they're allowed to have, immediate capabilities to some degree, but your point is still well taken. Wouldn't we like to have the assurances that there is someone at the helm? Anyway, more on that. Senator Manchin's on the news right now. I'll tell you about it when we get back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one right here, I'm talking about Alabama. Y'all, this show goes like way down south of Birmingham, up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, by the way, I gotta jump back and remind you guys. So I've been talking to you for the past month about one of our newest sponsors, Inspire Advisors. Inspire Advisors, they are so cool. So here's the bottom line. I know my audience. You guys are out there. A lot of y'all are doing what you can to set aside for your retirement. You're also the kind of people who actually stand up for what you believe in. Well, what if you found out, though, that some of the most popular companies for people to invest in are just not aligned with biblical values at all? Like, you may find out your investment dollars are unintentionally supporting things like, abortion, pornography, human trafficking. So here's the bottom line. Maybe you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors and find out about what they call biblically responsible investing. That's BRI, biblically responsible investing. I mean, the bottom line is this. They are experts at what they do. Inspire Advisors is there for you, and they've got the free opportunity to do a consultation, no questions asked. They'll just help you see what's in your portfolio, give you some indications of maybe some of those companies that you may not have wanted to be invested in and what the biblically aligned alternatives could be. So if you want to know more, if you want to have this free opportunity with no strings attached about BRI, about Inspire Advisors, meet with Paul Breyer, there's no cost or obligation. Like I said, you can go find them at their website, which is www.moneypatternwealth.com, or you can go to our website, rightsidemedia.org, and just click on our sponsors link and go straight to their logo and just click on that. It takes you right to their website. Inspire Advisors, Paul Breyer. You check them out. It's conservative, it's godly, it's balanced, it's financial freedom, y'all, with Inspire Advisors. Do check them out, please. All right, I'm gonna tell you. I mean, listen. If you think for a second that this is over, there's a lot going on. Moving parts are happening as we speak. So coming up here in about 20 minutes, Senator Joe Manchin is scheduled to be on with Brett Baier on Fox. But I just looked up and saw that he was on CNN, and he was on CNN, and he was calling for a open Democrat convention, basically saying Kamala Harris is not necessarily it. We need to have an open run at this. So an open convention is like saying we need to have our game on and have a new primary, like in the next very short while, a new primary. Well, that's a lot. And I don't blame you for asking. I think that Joe Manchin left his party because they had gotten so extreme that he's desirous of seeing his longtime party, the Democrats, brought back more to the center. But we'll see what happens. And then there's this. Pressure's mounting for the 25th Amendment. New story on Fox just came out. GOP senator demands the cabinet invoke the 25th Amendment against Biden after suspending his re-election campaign. Says Senator Eric Schmidt, and I've forgotten what state he's from, is urging all members of the cabinet, including Vice President Kamala Harris, to invoke the 25th Amendment. He sent letters to every member of Biden's cabinet on Monday afternoon, just a day after the president suspended his campaign. Listen, these calls aren't going to lighten up, all right? This is going to keep going. But what are people saying about it? Well, right here in Alabama, just so you know, Congressman Gary Palmer is already scheduled to be on the show tomorrow. Congressman Gary Palmer came out today saying the Democrat Party has now succeeded in pushing Joe Biden out of the presidential race. It was evident well before the debate with Donald Trump that Biden's mental acuity was severely diminished, but the Biden White House and the Democrats covered it up. The question now is whether he or not he has the ability to continue to serve as president. That's a heavy statement. You've also got Governor Kay Ivey. She came out and said Democrat voters, including here in Alabama, selected Joe Biden as their nominee, but when it became clear he could not win, he was bullied out by his own party. Bullied out. Yeah, bullied out. Regardless of their nominee, we need Donald Trump back in the White House. November 5th can't come soon enough, she said. And then our lone Democrat in our U.S. delegation, Representative Terry Sewell from Birmingham, she just basically praised Joe Biden, thanking him for his time, and says, I plan to do everything in my power from now on to November to make Kamala Harris the next president. Just so you know, she got the full-throated endorsement of Liberal Mayor Randall Woodfin of Birmingham today, too. He's all in for Kamala. Kamala. Had his picture made with Kamala. I tried to get one of our Democrat DNC delegates on the air today. He declined. He's a good dude. I've had him on the show before. I didn't beat him up. But State Representative Philip Insler, he posted this on Twitter last night. He says, "My heart is heavy at the announcement of President Biden stepping down from the race. As a delegate from Alabama at the Democrat National Convention, I look forward to enthusiastically supporting the new Democratic ticket. I fully endorse Vice President Harris for the top of the ticket." So I wanted to get him on to try and talk about it. And he sent me a very, cordial thanks anyway. Keep me in mind for a later show. Okay. Probably a lot going on right now. Hard time. But then there's the race down in Congressional District 2 in Alabama. This is a close race. This is a swing district in the nation right now. The brand spanking new lines that were drawn for our new Congressional District 2 has two non-incumbents running. One Republican, Caroline Dobson, who you've heard from many times on the show, but also Shamari Figures, who is a longtime Democrat operative, worked in the Obama administration, was part of the Biden transition team. Figures finally broke his silence. He's been saying nada since the debate, like keeping a low profile. Please don't mention that I used to work for Obama. Please don't mention I also used to work for Biden. But now he's all in for Kamala Harris. In a separate post, it says, Figures backed Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential bid. It said, I first met Kamala Harris in 2012, blah, 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 blah. I fully support Vice President Harris for the Democrat National Convention or nomination and look forward to voting for the first black woman president, because it is all about, identity politics. The amount of response, and now listen, I've got some great stuff here from others around the nation that I'll get to momentarily. But I got to tell you right now, what we're looking at is, how's Europe feel about this? Europe's got to be a little concerned. Politico has an article. Phil, did you go to Politico? I did. Politico. Dateline yesterday. The Biden fan club, for instance, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says, my friend POTUS Joe Biden has achieved a lot for his country, for Europe, and for the world. Thanks to him, transatlantic cooperation is close, NATO is strong, and the USA is a good, reliable partner for us. His decision not to run again deserves respect. You got similar stuff from Poland, their prime minister, who says, you've taken so many difficult decisions, thanks to which Poland, America, and the world are safer. Okay. United Kingdom's prime minister, Keir Starmer, who's new, by the way, said, I know that as he has done throughout his remarkable career, he will have made his decision based on what he believes is best for the American people. Sure, that's what it was. What was best for the American people was bowing out at the last minute because he hung on to it as long as he possibly could. Czech prime minister was in favor of bragging on Biden. And a member of the EU Socialists and Democrats group said a great president, definitely. That's what you want, is the EU Socialists calling you out as being a great one. And then, of course, Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukrainian president, said unwavering support for Ukraine's fight for the freedom. Tough but strong. We will always be thankful for President Biden's leadership. He supported us during the most dramatic moment in history, assisted us in preventing Putin from occupying our country, has continued support throughout the war. All right, so listen, there are those in Europe that are very upset because the checkbook was wide open when Biden was in office. What are they going to do now? Who's gonna pay for all the stuff? Oh my gosh, do we have to pay for it ourselves? And granted, some of them are pretty liberal, and they like having a liberal in America. But then there's Nigel Farage. I love Nigel Farage. He wrote just flat out from Britain. He said, I predicted this would happen back in September of 2023. Whoever they pick, Trump's going to win in November. A member of the far-right alternative party in Germany tweeted, this will not stop Trump. Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, she wrote that, she wrote that next step after Biden's written statement dropping out of the electoral race should be an investigation into collusion between the American media and certain political circles to cover up the truth about his mental conditions. Okay. And then just along for the ride, Politico says, is Latvian president who just said, politics has never been so interesting. Staying right smack in the middle. Listen, y'all, the world is talking about this. I don't know that we can possibly grasp how weighty this moment particularly is. This is big doings. The President of the United States, it's not like he's just running. He's actually the President of the United States. Every one of us, our national security depends upon what's in the White House right now. Not just the one person, but the team. But even still, the one person is by Constitution the only one who's allowed certain authorities and decision-making processes. And right now, we're not sure he can make decisions. Right now, he has faced calls from his own party to finally step down, where we've been seeing for the longest time that it did not appear that he had all of his faculties. He was often lost. His family put him out there anyway. He would lose his words. He would get angry at awkward moments. He would forget people's names. The other day, he actually forgot his Secretary of Defense's name and just called him the black guy. Good Lord. All that to say, he has now stepped down after being elected in the primary to be the nominee for the Democrat Party. And he stepped down by tweet, and we haven't seen him since. That is a moment when if you're going to step down, you present yourself to the nation on camera and you say, here I am, I'm fine, I disagree with the rhetoric, but I've lost the confidence of my party, and I believe we have to stop Donald Trump, so I'm going to go ahead and step aside, and I urge you to vote for Kamala Harris. She's young and vigorous, she can do the job. That would have been the presidential thing to do. For some reason, he's not able to be presidential. Is it his pride? It has to be a hard moment. Is it his family trying to shield him? Don't go out there. Don't give him the satisfaction. Is it because he doesn't know what to say? Or is it because he doesn't have the ability to say anything? I think the Biden family needs to step aside, and someone needs to put that man in front of a camera or tell us why he can't. Because just having his doctor saying, well, he took his Paxlovid, he's recovering from COVID quite well. Doctor, did he respond to you when you spoke to him? Doctor, did you just give the medicine to his wife, or did you conduct an actual, doctor-patient interview? There's a lot of questions that are just the Biden. Listen, instability is created when everything's gray. You need the black and the white. When everything's gray, I said it earlier in the show, instability, that's the devil's playground. All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll come right back. I'll clean up some text messages and take us to the house. It's almost go home time on a manic Monday. Woo! Hang in there, folks. Tuesday's coming. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. A bunch of y'all texted in. I'm going to try and get a few of those. By the way, I'll tell you guys, listen, if you hear the advertisement playing during the breaks, just know this. Rightside, we are a business, standalone business unto ourselves. We are not owned by the stations that you hear us playing on. And part of the way we support operations is by advertising. And so if you have a Rightside ruffian-owned company that has goods or services, and you're thinking, well, hang on a second, Phil's got like an audience of like over 30,000, biggest markets in the state, Birmingham and Huntsville, you might want to advertise to a bunch of Rightside ruffians who'd rather buy from you than somebody else. If you want to do that, here's how you do it. Go to our website, rightsidemedia.org, and click on the Advertising and Contact tab. Send us a message, and Lauren from Rightside will be in touch with you ASAP. I know she's got some great meetings even lined up for tomorrow. So we'd love to have you on the team. Advertise on Rightside. Don't call the station. You need to call us direct. Go to rightsidemedia.org and send us a message. Hey, breaking news just a minute ago during the break, Big Rig and I were watching on the screens here in the studio as the voice of Joe Biden called into his campaign headquarters as they are seeking right now to invigorate the staff and encourage them in the wake of, what had to have been a depressing moment when you're fighting for a cause and find out that the cause is no longer there. So right now, Kamala Harris's husband, the first man, I guess, or second gentleman, I guess they call him, Doug Emhoff, is speaking to the campaign headquarters, rallying the troops. And then just before that, the campaign manager's on. And then while she was on speaking, Joe Biden's voice called in and was on the phone. And we listened to it. And Big Rig, he sounded vigorous, did he not? In fact, he sounded more vigorous than usual.
It sounded like he had a couple scoops of ice cream.
Does Red Bull make ice cream?
I don't know.
Yeah, that could be a thing. But he did. He sounded gamey. If it was, listen. I said, say if it's him, it'd be a hard place to be for them to fake a call like that and get away with it. But the reality is, anything's possible these days. But here's my thing. Biden is saying, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be campaigning with Kamala. I'm going to be out there on the campaign trail. I'm also going to continue to fight against Trump, and I'm also going to continue to be president for the next 6 months. So he says he's game on. And for a guy who can't run for office and who can't come out of his house to address people, he just sure made a very, bubbly phone call, did he not? I mean,
that was the most coherent I've ever heard him.
Yeah.
Just on that phone call.
It was.
That's why I'm kind of skeptical.
Coherent and energetic all at the same time. Yeah. Okay. I have questions. Paul from Huntsville says it was AI Biden. Listen, go figure. Pam from Locust Fork says, could the vigor come from AI? See, this is people doing. I'm telling you. Luann from Huntsville says, lots of luck, but the ride's going to be full of turbulence if the plane even gets off the ground. Oh, Phil, making an analogy, you get a plane off the ground. You need time, speed, and runway. In the case of the Democrats, they are running out of time. They cannot attract the resources to get off the ground, like the donors. And as for the runway, Biden couldn't even deliver, and I'm pretty sure neither can Kamala. I would tend to agree, but Luann, we cannot take anything for granted. Not at all. Marie from Madison says, Phil, this situation with Biden reminds me of the 1989 movie Weekend at Bernie's with Andrew McCarthy, and in this case, it should be called Weekend at Biden's. Totally agree. Yes, indeed. John from Huntsville says, Big Rig and Phil are today's co-champions with an A+ for their equally fantastic performances. It also want to say I'm looking forward to hearing some Speedy Gonzalez tomorrow, and I was wondering, since the Olympic Games begin on Friday, if you could have Hannah Stevens on one day this week to do some right sports. We may have to do it. John. Good call. What else we got here for real quick before we go down to the break time? Kathy from Madison says maybe Biden didn't concede, but his staffers sent the press releases and the tweets anyway. Technically, that would be a coup. It's a coup, one way or the other. Crystal from Moulton said Biden's is called in the campaign into the Harris campaign. Ha ha. It is kind of weird, isn't it? It's a weird dynamic that we're in. JT Lacey Springs says, what were those EU folks smoking? Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll tell you what they were smoking. They were smoking the stuff that Biden's been sending them. That's what they've been smoking. He had the good stuff, right? Open checkbook. Just we're in it for the long haul. How much you want? All right, y'all, it's an amazing day. Stay in the fight. We got a lot to do. We got 106 days-ish until we get to the polls. And I'm just telling you right now, we are not done till we're done. Take it all the way to the tape. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. See you tomorrow.